Hello, I'm Michael Verney and welcome along to the Indo GAA Podcast with thanks to AIB. AIB is at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county, and in 2025 they're celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championships. With this year's championship shaping up to be one of the most competitive in years, AIB is more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. Check out the hashtag #TheToughest for more. Hello and welcome to the Indo GAA Hurling Show. I'm delighted to be joined by John Mullane. And John, no one in their wildest dreams outside of the Dublin dressing room, I'd say, predicted what happened on Saturday. Dublin beating Limerick, and they didn't just beat them. This was no shock, no fluke. This was an unbelievable performance from the Dubs, and Limerick are out. I'm still struggling to get my head around it all now, to be honest with you.
Well, I have a little story to tell you. I work with a fella, Patrick McCarthy, and he listens to this pod. And he's a shrewd Cork sports person. Goes to big Cork City supporter. Goes to all the Cork hurling and football games. And he texted me last week and he said, have a fiver on the double. Dublin and Cork footballers to win. And the double, I think, was coming in at, I think it was 200 to 1, I think, or something along the lines of 160, between 160 to 200 to 1. And he said, no, he said, I'm telling you, I fancy Dublin to beat Limerick. And I won't say I half laughed. I said, are you half mad? Like, you know, I was kind of saying, like, you know, I was kind of breaking it down. I said, maybe the Cork footballers, I said, against the Dubs in the football, but most certainly I couldn't have foreseen the Dublin hurlers taking down the Green Machine. And particularly, I came back, I said, they might go 50 minutes, 45 minutes with him, but I always felt in my own mind that, you know, Limerick would push on and win the game by 7 or 8 points. And by God, he was texting me, he said, there you go. And he was on a bit of I was actually up at the Feile the weekend, and he was looking good because Cork footballers were in a commanding position as well. And I was kind of saying, Jesus, you know, I wouldn't say I had egg on my face because I mean the whole country, but you know, you couldn't have foreseen it, like. But no. I was actually up at the Feile up in Wexford because our Camogie division, we won Division 2 in the Camogie. We beat Ceallacháin of Antrim in the final.
There's another Mullane and another fist pumper on the way.
Yeah. So and look, it's a great weekend for Waterford. GAA Ballygunner won the under 14, won it comprehensively. Or under 15 comprehensively by all accounts, and Abbeyside won the Division 3 Camogie, so great weekend, but a fantastic weekend. The Feile. Were you ever at the Feile before?
I never played in the Feile. No, never played in the Feile. One thing I would have loved to play in, but anyone that comes back from Feile, the experience they've had and staying in people's houses and all the community that you have. And I remember years ago, like the Burr lads went up to Swatra up in Derry, and it's gas like you have a connection with a place forevermore, having gone to Feile there or stayed at Feile there.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose since COVID kicked in, they kind of done away with the overnight stays and the links with other clubs. But it's a fabulous weekend. We got beaten in 1993 by Dungarvan, and I was only 12 at the time, and they went on and represented Waterford and Galway. But no, it's a fantastic weekend. And just before we delve into it, you know, great credit has to go to Wexford GAA to put on 2 fantastic years within the Feile. We were based in Tara Rocks GAA, and I couldn't.
I know it well. I think the smallest club in the country, I think.
Oh, hey,
yeah,
right,
and unbelievable facilities. I know a good few of them down there. Lovely setup down there.
Yeah, lovely setup, and I couldn't applaud them. You know, they were absolutely brilliant on the day. You know, what they put on for the kids, and it's a great experience for the kids, and you know, the parents and the camaraderie amongst everyone. And we actually got beaten by Ceallacháin in the group stages in our third game, and we came back and beat them in the final. But yeah, I actually went in and spoke to the Ceallacháin's girls after the match, and you know, we were trying to, you know, kind of form a link now going forward into the future with Ceallacháin. But you know, tears were rolling down faces, and you know, we had the joy, and but then you go into the other dressing room, then at the end of the day, they're only kids. But I'm sure they had a marvelous weekend. But I down at the Feile, like I was kind of getting updated as the Limerick game and Dublin game was being played out, and one chap came over to me. I think he was actually probably from Offaly, and he said, "Jesus, Dublin are up by 3, but they're down to 14 men."
Yeah.
And he was he more or less kind of said to me, "Oh, well, look, they don't have any hope." And then as we were getting updated as they going on, the next thing they were level. They were 3 points up and going into the closing stages. And with that, I turned on the radio then, Mark Kiely and Kay Kelly, and I got the end of it. And Jesus, I was shell shocked. Absolutely shell shocked.
Just on that, Mull, like the 14-man thing is the thing that really blows this even further out of the water, isn't it? Like to be down like one of their best players, and Crummy was playing right well too. He was on a load of ball in that first 15 minutes or 14 minutes. He left the referee with a decision to make, unfortunately. If he'd been gone in like that, shall we say, and his shoulder was there, but his arm was raised and but like, Jesus Christ, his teammates, talk about digging a fella out of a hole. And like, looking at the game, and I looked back at it yesterday, like, and I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it did look like Dublin were the team that had the extra man. They had all the energy. They were finding free men everywhere. Limerick, like as tactically good as they are, they really struggled with the extra man at the back. It was Sean Finn, it was Mike Casey, it was Dan Morrissey, it was Kyle Hayes. And maybe that was something that Dublin were doing, that they were making sure that they pushed up on the sweeper and that it changed every time. It was Barry Murphy in the second half, which I thought was very, very strange as well, considering he only came onto the field. But like the kind of the war zone nature that Dublin brought to it, like I don't know how many times I looked at a ball breaking somewhere and like 6-7 Dublin bodies in there, like absolutely ravenous for work, like just absolutely mad for road. And I don't think Limerick knew what hit them, and there was a couple of different instances in the game. Tom Morrissey went out for a ball about 2 minutes into the game, and he just went for like a casual flick, and like there was no casualness to the Dubs. Like it was a real robust tackle in, and he was stopped. Hannon came onto the field in the 50th minute, and my God, he got 2 unmerciful hits within the space of a minute, and he actually looked like dazed almost. And the greatest compliment that I've always paid to Limerick is, no matter how bad things are going in a game, they could turn it around. Like thinking of the Tip Munster final in 2021, but there was no turning this around. And the one time when it looked like they were going to turn it around, and they went 19-18 up after about 52 minutes. Then all of a sudden, Dublin get 2 goals within a minute, and the game is flipped again. It was unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, well, look, I have my notes in front of me as well, and that's one thing I have down here is the casualness of the approach by some of the Limerick players, as you just alluded to there, in contrast to the appetite for work from the Dublin players, particularly when they didn't have the ball. Like it's not like they switch all the good teams. You even go back to 2004 when we come up against that great Cork team, and when I was sent off, all of a sudden then, that can galvanise, a team that are down to 14 men. Right, we're going to roll up the sleeves, we're going to drive on even more, and it can throw. And it can be the opposite effect then for a really, really good side. Well, it can happen, Michael. It can happen, Verney. And even some of those Cork players back in 04, they found themselves in the same predicament where they probably didn't even know what to do with the extra man. And even you go back to, in recent years, Tipperary and Wexford. Wexford didn't know what to do with the extra man. And that's what makes this so much of an unbelievable achievement. And look, we've remarked on it throughout the course of the league. When a team goes down to 14 men, the dangers of going down to 14 men, how much of an advantage it is now for a team if they have numerical advantage where they can just ping the ball around. But Dublin just didn't give Limerick the opportunity to get their heads up or ping the ball around. And they were very, very shrewd in how they set up. They brought out 4 out of the half-forward line, had a line of 4, went with the 1 inside. And they just said, right, we're going to flood the middle third and we're going to take you on in that war zone in the middle third. A war zone that Limerick usually win hands down. But I don't like to be proven right, and I don't want any Limerick supporters, thinking I'm smiling at being half right in what I predicted. I'd say a couple of months ago, just after the league or the start of the championship, where I did suggest or predict that if Limerick were going to fall this year, it wasn't going to be in the time-confined grounds of maybe Thurles, the Gaelic grounds, or Welsh Park. It was, and particularly when they beat Waterford down at Welsh Park, I did predict that, Limerick could potentially struggle in the wide open areas of Croke Park. And I was predicting that off the back of, I wasn't seeing new blood or new energy being thrown into their back line, and or even from say from 2 up to 9, and even I know Hegarty had a good game going forward, but you look at Tom Morrissey and Hegarty over the years, they always cut off those green grass areas.
They were under pressure going backwards, weren't they?
They were wicked under pressure going backwards. And how many times did you look on and see a Dublin player was able to plant his feet, look at the post, and put the ball over the bar?
It's gas you say that, Mull. I could not believe that Conor Burke had the time on the ball he had at times to strike points. Like, literally, as you say, plant the feet. You don't get to plant your feet at county level usually.
No, well, and you don't get it. You don't get a second with the Limerick team of previous years, and even go back to last year, or the Limerick, when they were when they were humming and going for the 4 in a row, they wouldn't give you time to breathe. And now all of a sudden they were finding these pockets of space at their ease. Let's be honest about it. And those numbers that we usually become accustomed to seeing with Limerick, they just weren't there the weekend. And the tracking back, the appetite for work, the legs just weren't there. And, it was probably a big call to go and play in Croke Park. And I can see, look, why they would go and want to get a game under their belt in Croke Park. And they're probably thinking ahead, saying, right, we'll get the games into the legs, knowing that we're going to be playing Kilkenny there in 2 weeks' time. Because I'll be straight with you, Verney, if this game was played in Parnell Park, or was played in Thurles, or was played in Gaelic grounds, there would only be one winner. And what Saturday confirmed for me and going forward for the Dubs and for Niall Ceallacháin is that Dublin are a Croke Park team, and even going forward for the next couple of years now, I won't be playing any games in Parnell Park. These boys are an athletic team. They're well able to move. They've hurling smartness. They're good on the ball, and I'll tell you something. Cork are forewarned now, but I'll tell you, if Dublin bring to the table what they brought Saturday, it's going to be one hell of a game. And some of the performances. I mean, Brian Hayes was magnificent.
James Mull, he's some pace, hasn't he? Like, he gets the ball and he just glides. But I know Niall Ceallacháin has gotten nearly a bit annoyed about when we say, oh, geez, he's some athlete or he's some pace. And he just goes, he's some hurler as well. And he is. And he put over a brilliant score near the end when they needed a score as well. But like the energy, like Rian McBride, these boys, once grass opened, they were gone. And I'm not being smart at you, Dublin hit some woeful wides. Dublin could have won this game by 7 or 8 points, and they were probably 5 or 6 point winners based on how they performed and what they missed. They put in some terrible wides, but you know what? It didn't cripple them at all. They kept shooting and kept shooting and kept shooting and got their rewards. But here, just more quickly, Heatherton's goal, he was literally standing on the end line.
Well, it's one of those. Now he done it against Wexford. Now I haven't done well. I got one goal against Cork, the second goal of the hat-trick in 2003, where Flinner just gave me the ball. You don't even have time to think, Michael.
Yeah.
You just turn, and it's just, you hit. It's kind of more or less a hit and a hope shot, all right? And you're hoping then that you get the ball on target, and it's one of those shots that could go anywhere. Like that shot could very easily have gone a mile wide, but it was such a tight angle that, and I suppose he was hitting off the left, that, the way it just played out and went to the top corner, it was an unbelievable goal. But now I'm not taking anything away from Ego, because he was excellent when he came on. And even, I met did you ever meet his father?
No, I don't know him, Kieran.
I met him there. I met him there at a function. Lovely man. But he could try that. It's one of those hit and hope shots that you could try that 10 times and you might only get two out of the 10. So it's more or less a percentage shot against you, and thankfully it went in the back of the net. But the execution, the connection was unbelievable, and I had to be unbelievable to possibly beat one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. And then the follow up, then, in quick time, then to get another goal, and it was just perfect, because the Dublin supporters coming in on the hill, then were coming in at the right time, and next thing, all the boys in blue were going up, and next thing there was volume going around. And even, I would say, Limerick supporters, voted with their feet, saying, "Well, you know what, we're going to hold on to the money for the semi-final.
Big time.
We're not going to travel because we're going to beat the Dubs, knowing that we're going to be in an All-Ireland semi-final, and we'll hold on to our money for the All-Ireland semi-final." But the reaction from the Dubs, because before that, 49 minutes, Sean Curry was going through. He missed an unbelievable chance to raise a green flag. Limerick go up 18 points each. Adam English then gets the next score, 19 points to 18. They get 4 unanswered scores, and you're thinking it's 51 minutes on the clock. We've seen the end of this movie before. There's only going to be one winner here. They're going to push on, and next thing, bang, bang, and here we go. It just it's all bets off, and it's you go from Limerick, kind of go from a casual streak to getting level, to going ahead, to saying, right, Adam English gives a clinch of the fist, to saying, right, we're going to drive on. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 quick goals, one after the other. And even they got to 61, 62 minutes. I was watching it back on the Sunday, and I said to ourselves at home, like, even at 61, 62 minutes, I think the Dubs were 2 points up. Yeah, I still felt that, Jesus, Limerick are in a commanding position. There's still 11, 12 minutes left on the clock. But the character and the resilience of these boys to roll up the sleeves, and that's in the memory bank now. That's in the memory bank for 2 weeks' time, that they can go and call upon. They've gotten Donal Burke back onto the field. Conor Donoghue, his suspension is going to be up. You'd imagine he'll come in for Chris Crummey. You'd feel sorry for Chris Crummey. Look, I've been there before. I missed an All-Ireland semi-final. He's going to be gutted. Look, it was by the letter of the law, he had to walk, but look, it was minimal contact, and even it was probably similar to Richie Hogan. And even to this day, I still feel that Richie Hogan shouldn't have been sent off in that All-Ireland semi in that All-Ireland final. But just going off of this year, even you go back to Alan Tynan in the league, he got sent off, and he didn't get off with the suspension. So I think it's going to be a big struggle for Chris Crummey to get that overturned.
Just a quick one, Mull, on Niall Ceallacháin. He's kind of cool and calm and collected at times, but like, I don't know. People would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be going in there" or whatever. I liked seeing him going into Liam Garden and trying to get his point across. I know he got a yellow card for it at half time or whatever. And I don't know if you noticed, about 61, 62 minute, he went absolutely mental on the line. It was announced that Donald Burke was coming on for Ronan Hayes, and he lost the plot because Ronan Hayes wasn't supposed to be coming off. It was Rian McBride that was supposed to be coming off, and he just lost the plot on the line. Then all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, Burke is coming on for Rian McBride and whatever. But he's cool and calm and collected. But he's also no problem getting stuck in whenever he has to get stuck in. And he's cool and calm when he needs to be. But when he needs to lose the plot or lose the rag or show the team that energy is needed, he's no problem in showing it either. And I just thought as well, even after, Conor McKeown asked him a question. Conor McKeown of this parish, he asked him a question in the media briefing afterwards. And he just said, like, nobody thought this was on the menu this morning when they woke up for breakfast or whatever. And he was even the fact that he said after the Kildare game that we're already been written off against Limerick. I was like, I love this. He's already got the siege mentality going. And even after the Limerick game, he's like, this is step 2 of 4. And you're like, oh, that is fair cool considering what they had just achieved as well and how calculated that is. And nobody saw them as realistic contenders maybe before last Saturday, but they clearly do, and that's all that matters.
I really like him. Really like him. And even the calmness, the day of the All-Ireland final when the Feeney, the arms folded. I even watched them in the league. They were extremely unlucky in the league, and I covered one game against Offaly. They should have beaten Offaly. And they should have beaten Waterford the same day down in Welsh Park. They actually went down to 14 men. And I covered the game against Wexford. And actually, my comments that day is something is brewing in Dublin hurling. But I didn't predict something like this would materialise. And even look, we probably should have homed in a bit more on the comeback against Kilkenny. And you take away those sloppy goals that they gave away. Just on that, Mull,
they conceded 14 goals in their first 4 Leinster games. Sean Brennan came in after the 5 goals were conceded against Kilkenny. They have not conceded 1 goal in their last 3 games. That takes in Galway and Limerick. It obviously takes in Kildare as well, who maybe they wouldn't be expected to concede goals against, but they have tightened up something shocking at the back. And just on his save from Galan as well. And, the big celebration like that, and you're thinking, that just infuses energy. And just you mentioned about the crowd, I thought even from an early stage, the Dublin crowd bought in, and it was clear their footballers were playing after, but it was clear that the team gave them something to build on, and the crowd lapped up every bit of it and gave them energy. And they were their 15th man. And even I'm thinking Brennan was their 14th outfielder at times as well, receiving ball over at the 21 and always been an option as well. It came together perfectly for them. It's mad to say it that 14 would be 15, but so many things and so many factors just came together. And this was their breakout performance.
Absolutely. And look, we were probably judging them too much based on the Galway performance. And as I said to you last week, the break probably came for them at the right time because, they were probably using the same 19, 20 players, throughout the course of the league, throughout the course of the championship. And, it probably wasn't sustainable going forward, that there was probably going to be one match where they were going to be probably devoid of energy and come with a flat performance, and possibly that was that day against Galway. But even the day against Kildare, you're watching the highlights, even one or two of the passages of play, and you're kind of going, wow, that was mighty impressive. And even you go back to the start of the year where Owen O'Donnell probably one of the best fullbacks within the game, he doesn't commit, and they don't even mention it. They just get on with it. And
just on that, Mull, Ceallacháin brings in Conor McHugh, who has got, I think he's a good handful of All-Ireland senior football medals, but he makes his inter-county hurling debut at the age of 31. He marks Cian Lynch in the first half and he had a tough maybe first 10 or 15. But he was brilliant thereafter. Like, he was unreal. Did you see the ball that goes over? That horrible ball, I know as a defender. It's dribbling towards the sideline in the first half. And you're like, oh no, if I play this ball, I carry it out over the line, I give them a line ball. What does he do? He flicks it back between his legs and runs on and picks the ball up, and you're thinking, this is crazy stuff. And a fella making his inter-county hurling debut at 31, it was nuts.
Yeah, but he looked so calm.
Yeah,
he looked so calm, and he's playing. He probably brought that football element or side of his game into play, where he didn't look under pressure at any stage of the match. And I mean, he didn't look overawed by marking. Let's be honest about it, by marking Cian Lynch, who was let's call a spade, who was in hurler of the year form. But that hook by Brian Hayes on Cottle O'Neill, when he got that hook in, and it was on the sideline, and it was worked up, I think, to Sean Curry. I think it was worked up to Sean Curry on that side of the pitch, and Curry put it over the bar. You're then saying to yourself, right, this is definitely on. Even their game management, I was very impressed by their game management in trying to, they were ahead, they didn't panic, trying to close out the match. Even hauling down players. Now look, you'd have to question, if you're a Limerick supporter, Limerick management team. Was it John Bellew? Was he tore down Cottle O'Neill? I mean,
it's funny how the black card does not seem to exist more. Like, it's almost like a decision has been made to say, lads, I know the black card is there, but we're kind of going to ignore it. It's crazy, really. Like,
a big turning point. That is a big turning point, and it's a huge talking point, because a black card is dished out, penalty is given to Limerick, and now all of a sudden you're saying Limerick are going to push on and win this game, particularly with 13 men. But look, you just don't know, because you seen it with the Tipperary minors last year. It was just, it was ingrained in these boys that, hey, we're just going to work, and we're going to outwork Limerick. And that's what they did. They just totally outworked Limerick. And look, from a Limerick point of view, I'd like to ask you the question: do you think there's another All-Ireland in this team? What I didn't like, in the aftermath of it, you're seeing some of the stuff floating it out, some of the stuff circulating online, about this Limerick team wasn't nice to see, because let's be honest about it, this team have been unbelievable for the game, and are up there, are up there in the top three teams of the greatest teams of all time. But it's definitely they're at a crossroads now, where Kiely now might have to have the conversation with one or two boys, and might have to upset one or two of the boys if they're to move forward, and they're most certainly, they're definitely at the other side of the mountain. Is there another All-Ireland in him? I think there's another All-Ireland in him, but he might have to freshen it up with two or three boys at the back,
You kind of spoke about about Dublin's game management. Like, Limerick's game management for a team of their experience was very poor. Like, I was amazed that they allowed the free man to be, juggled from one man to the next, and it wasn't a designated person, and they didn't get anything really out of free man. And even just thinking, like, Galan's kind of free that he missed at the start, his free taking was off. Burns' free taking was off. I actually remarked, and I'm not having a go at him because I'm a massive fan of him, just before half time, I just
one big free, 14 minutes. It's 7-5 to
Burns, just after the sending off.
Just after the sending off, Burns missed the free. If he lands that free, now all of a sudden the margin has gone out to 3. Instead of it going out to 3, I think Dublin get the next 4 or 5 scores. Like, Limerick go 10 minutes without a score.
Crazy, yeah.
Go 10 minutes without a score. I mean, that's unbelievable for a team, a caliber of team of Limerick, that they go 10 minutes without a score playing against 14 men. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I have to say, and he's been one of the best centre backs of the modern era, and he's been the most successful captain of the modern era, but I did think it was strange bringing Declan Hannon on centre back in Croke Park, and maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but a couple of minutes after he comes on, there's this ocean of space down the middle of the Limerick defence, and they get their 2 goals. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but he did struggle, and I thought it was unusual to put Hayes out on the wing when they needed him most in the centre. That was my own opinion. I thought there was a good few strange things happened, to be honest with you.
But it just goes to show you how tuned in this Dublin management are. When Hannon did go into 6, where did he go? The same tactic as Cork done last year, right down the middle, breaking ball, and they got an enormous amount of joy out of it.
You asked me the question, but I'll throw it back to you. Like, where do Limerick go from here now? Like, I would have probably thought, and there have been changes. Obviously, Adam English is a starter now. Aidan O'Connor was a starter as well, that we wouldn't have had last year. But like, what changes do you expect to see now? Will there be not wholesale changes, but will we see a lot more changes maybe than we saw in the last 12 months? This is the bitterest pill for them to swallow now, because it wasn't expected. There's no point in saying any different. They weren't on it from the first whistle, and it's the first time they haven't really been able to turn it around in a game like that.
Well, look, as I keep going back to it, and I pinpointed, when Kilkenny were kind of at a bit of a crossroads, they injected pace into their back line with Killian Buckley, Paul Murphy, Conor Fogarty in midfield. They brought in a couple of forwards, Colin Fenley. Colin Fenley came in. Now, obviously, they were bringing in the likes of Richie Hogan then and TJ Reid, who went on to be hurler of the year. Both of them went on to be hurler of the year. But do Limerick have the personnel to go in and have that big impact that's going to be probably needed to push on and win another All Ireland? Yeah, I don't know, but they're most certainly, like, that's why I did question, we always, ask the question, we can't judge on the league. I didn't see enough in the league to say that, hey, you know what, there's a lad you can go and trust come championship, or there's another lad you can go and trust. They just weren't there.
Yeah, it's funny, Mull, as well. Of all the new players that they've coming in, they're kind of nearly all from 8 up, aren't they? Shane O'Brien, Adam English, Cathal O'Neill, Aidan O'Connor. There's been very few from 2 to 7, shall we say. And that's where you'd expect the changes, if they are to come, or that's where the changes are more necessary, shall we say. And I have to say as well, I thought it was very strange that Shane O'Brien wasn't listed on the 26 at all. And then he's into the 26 with Flanagan out, and then he comes on. I just thought that was strange as well. I think there were a lot of strange things that happened from a Limerick point of view.
Even Dara Donovan, it was crying out for Dara Donovan in midfield. I know Adam English got was it 5 points he came away with, but they were getting absolutely murdered in the middle third. It was crying out for that type of player to come in, kind of shore up the middle third, and kind of that kind of extra body in there to kind of, prevent Dublin breaking through those lines and finding the green grass. I just thought it was very, very strange.
Just on that as well, I know I tweeted the other day and it got a kind of a decent reaction or whatever, but Caroline Curd wasn't involved in 19, 24 or 25, and they didn't win the All-Ireland. When she has been involved, they've won the All-Ireland. But similarly as well, when Darragh O'Donovan, for whatever reason, when Darragh O'Donovan doesn't start games, Limerick exit the championship. He didn't start in 19 semi-final, he didn't start last year, and he didn't start this year. So make of that what you will, but I just think, to me, I think he's like the kingmaker. The ball he gives in and the benefits that the forwards get out of him playing is huge. And he didn't start the other day either. Just quickly, and maybe we should ask this as a start, where does this rank among shocks in hurling history?
Yeah, but in the last, I can only speak for when I started watching hurling, was probably 1986 to 87. Would it be up there with? It's probably the biggest one for me within the last 35, 40 years. Other ones that come to mind would be, obviously the standout one would be Antrim and Wexford. I would throw Kerry beating Waterford in 1993.
Yeah.
In the Munster Championship. I think the other one definitely, and I don't think too many people have mentioned it, was Westmeath coming back from 15 points down.
17 at one stage, yeah.
17 points against Wexford. I mean, if that happened in an All-Ireland quarter final, it will be on everyone's lips. But it probably just got hidden away. The fact that it was hidden away in a Leinster round robin game, but that was an unbelievable achievement by Westmeath to come back from 17 points down and to win that match. So yeah, those are the type of games that probably come to mind. But for me, I think it's definitely number one within the last 40 years. Yes.
As regards shock value in a knockout game, has it been like I was shaking for about an hour after the match. I know I'm a bit strange or whatever, and hurling hits me hard, but I was I just couldn't get my head around it. Other games are Carlow probably drawn with Kilkenny last year was a massive shock. Laois beating Dublin in 2019 in that preliminary quarter final would have been a big shock. Definitely Antrim and Offaly in 89, and as you mentioned there, Kerry beating Waterford in 93 would have been a massive shock as well. It's funny, and even in your column on Saturday, Mull, it was all Galway Tip, and that's the way the weekend was. And the first game on Saturday was almost like an afterthought, because everybody thought it was going to be whatever, and it turns out to be the biggest story of the weekend. But the other game on Saturday, Mull, Tipperary defeating Galway handsomely enough, kind of had them at arm's length for most of the game. Just the one thing I do want to talk about first here, the guts of about 15,000 in the Gaelic grounds for a quarter final. If the GAA ever needed, a reminder of how ticket prices need to be, appropriately made, this is surely it. €40 for a standalone quarter final, and I think definitely Galway supporters spoke with their feet, whether that was to do with the prices or whether that was to do with a bit of an apathy around the team. Definitely think they spoke with their feet in this regard. But just Galway, you kind of said in your column, you don't really know. Life is like a box of chocolates with Galway. You just never know what you're going to get. And they didn't really deliver a performance that we would have expected, particularly off the back of the Leinster final.
Well, I'm going to be consistent now, Michael. Am I right in saying the semi-finals are gone up by another €10?
They're €60, I think, for the semi-finals, yeah.
And were they 50 last year?
55, I think, yeah.
55, yeah. It's
but they were 50 not long ago.
I think 50 is more is ample enough, and we'll keep mentioning it, because again, there's not enough people out there that are willing to speak up about this, about exposure to the game, promotion to the game. To be fair, I think the hurling has gotten its fair share of the games on free to air TV, so that's fantastic to see. But yeah, the ticket prices, when are they going to draw the line and say, we're going to cap it at this price? That's where it is for the next couple of years. And yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have a full house between Cork and Dublin. They're going to pay the prices, and I'd say similar between Tipperary and Kilkenny. But I just like to see something, in the next year or two, and say, look, this is where it's going to be at for the next couple of years, or even something along the lines. You know what? We're going to bring it back to €50 or something like that. I think it would really, really help families who are struggling out there, and are probably at a stage now where they nearly have to pick and choose what games they go to.
And Limerick supporters definitely did that on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because let's be honest about it, those Limerick supporters, have been unbelievable supporters for this team within the last 6-7 years. And look at the cost that's coming at. And you have to consider as well the Limerick supporters. How many months of round robin games is there, Michael? There's they had 4, and then they had the Munster finals running on top of it as well. So very, very expensive on those supporters. And, you couldn't hold it against them why they didn't go up to Croke Park the weekend. But going on to Galway and Tipperary, Michael, I'm just going to say it for our Kilkenny listeners and the Kilkenny players. I hope you've taken your blue tablets today now and not your red tablets. Because I'll remind you, 2 weeks ago, that you said that the Galway panel are on par with the Kilkenny panel. And I just couldn't for the life of me, for such a knowledgeable man of the game, could get my head around that remark. So I think you might have to owe the Kilkenny listeners and the Kilkenny team an apology.
I tell you what, Mull, they can do their talking in the semi-final and maybe final, and they can prove me wrong.
Well, I'll tell you one sure thing. There's absolutely no way some of the scores that Tipperary got the weekend, they'll get in an All-Ireland semi-final. And I'll tell you, and I'm going to tell you another thing. If the Kilkenny defence or the Tipperary defence afford the Kilkenny forward line the chances that they afforded Galway the weekend, they won't be let off the hook. Rhys Shelley will be picking the ball out of the back of the net 3 or 4 times. And I think that's what Liam Cahill is going to really, really home in on, going forward, banging the drum for the next 2 weeks now. We've got to keep it tight at the back. And that's what probably, and it was probably strange from a Galway point of view that, instead of keeping the scoreboard ticking over, they were just in the mindset of, we're going, if goals are going to come our way, we're going to take on those opportunities. And unfortunately, they didn't raise any green flags. But I mean, some of the scores that the Tipperary were able to pick off. You're on about the Dublin players planting their feet. I mean, Jason Ford on 1 or 2 occasions was able to plant his feet. Willie Connors was able to plant his feet. It was at their ease. There was zero, I wouldn't say zero intensity, but it was, if you're a Galway supporter watching on from your TV screen, you're saying, Jesus, thank God I didn't go down and watch that match or pay into the turnstiles.
I disagree with you, Mull. You should, if you're a supporter, you go, no matter how, if it's garbage, but you should always go, and you should never say, oh, thank God I didn't go. You should always go, no matter what.
Yeah, but you have to give them something. You have to give the supporters something there to grasp on, to say, right, you know what? I'm going to jump in the car. I'm going to throw the kids in the car. We're going to make a day of really looking forward to it. I came out of the Leinster final. You were at the Leinster final, and a lot of Galway supporters, they were very, very annoyed with the performance. So, I'd agree to disagree with you, on that statement. Going off the Leinster final, you couldn't really blame him, Michael,
Yeah, I think you should always show up, but that's another thing. Just lastly, Mull, Galway face a rebuild here, realistically, don't they? And I know you had it in your column on Saturday that at the end of Donoghue's first year, we'll say Andy Smith, Iarla Tanyan, Fergal Moore, David Collins, Cyril Donnellan were kind of not involved for year 17 when they did win the All-Ireland. Do you expect a good few changes here? And I'd say the job of work ahead is even more than they expected.
I do. And look, some of the Galway players, they're legends in Galway. They're probably some of the greatest players they've ever had. And I'd say even looking by David Burke going around shaking hands with all the Tipperary players, I'd say, look, I don't want to be tempting fate, but I'd say that could be the last you might see if someone like him in a maroon and white jersey. And if it is, what an unbelievable servant to Galway. What an unbelievable player. And look, you wouldn't like to see some of these Galway players stay an extra year or two on, and stay on an extra 2 year and take away from what they've given to Galway the last 10 or 15 years. But if they don't, unfortunately, I think Niall Donoghue is probably going to have to sit down and probably have, a couple of difficult conversations with a couple of them. And I think he's going to have to kind of reshuffle the pack and go with the youth, and they might be down for a year or two. But look, I think that the Leinster Championship kind of affords them the opportunity to go and build in the way that they will want to going forward for the next couple of years. But it's going to take. He has a 4-year term. I'd say it could take up to 5-6 years. But look, Tipperary have shown it can happen quickly. Young Malloy was looked good when he came in the weekend. Looked good against Offaly. I like young McLaughlin. So if they can throw in a couple more lads, the caliber of those players, who's to say it won't be long building quickly again, But I most certainly think Niall Donoghue is the man to take him forward, because he's on the ground in Galway. He knows the club scene, and he'll know what he has at his disposal and what he can work on going forward into the future.
Well, you only have to look at Tip as a fair example of how you can turn things around pretty quickly, because they were at the bottom of the barrel probably this time last year, and now they're staring into an All-Ireland semi-final and a first meeting with the Cats since 2025. We'll talk probably a bit more Tip in the build-up to the semi-final, but last word, Mull, best of luck to the Daisha boys on Saturday in Semple Stadium. I was chatting to James O'Connor yesterday. He's absolutely buzzing ahead of the game, and he was just saying about how the buzz and momentum and the swell of support in Waterford has kind of invigorated people, particularly with the senior team out. So I know my Clare friends won't be happy, but I hope you do the business and end the 12-year famine at minor level, because no more than my own county in Offaly, the amount of hope you get from a win like that, and you're thinking, Jesus, in 3 or 4 years' time, who knows where we could be at senior level. So I hope you do the business.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracking final. 2 evenly matched teams. Was very, very impressed by Clare in that All-Ireland semi-final. As I touched on last week, I couldn't have foreseen anyone beating that Cork team when I was at the Munster final. Couldn't have foreseen anyone beating that Cork team, but I think Clare have gradually improved as the season has gone on, or summer has gone on. To score 28 points against Cork was fair going. But at the same time, Waterford, if they can bring to the table what they brought against Kilkenny, they've every chance to win it. And unfortunately, Michael, I'm looking after Cushions down in Wexford, and we've a local derby against Adamstown Saturday evening at 6 o'clock.
Oh, no.
So yeah, so the wife is she's on duties with bringing the kids the weekend. So look, I'll be wishing the lads all the best. Jocks it's an injection of hope, badly needed down here. And look, off the back of Ballygunner winning the Feile the weekend, it's not all doom and gloom, but I would expect there could be adding up to between 10 and 15,000 will go to that match the weekend. But just before we go, Noel McGrath, Verney.
Ah, stop, will you? He's
Noel
unreal.
McGrath. I mean, we couldn't let it go without mentioning the impact he's having on every game when he comes on. I mean, the score, the pass for the goal was just unbelievable.
And not too many would have given that pass.
Ah, stop, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we've great All-Ireland final to look forward in the minor, and 2 unbelievable All-Ireland semi-finals. So yeah, Hurling, we're back. We're in a good place.
Good stuff. We'll talk soon, Mull. Thanks a mil.
Down, Verney.